I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about why you must walk away.
And sometimes you need to.
Yeah, sometimes you guys are in situations where the relationship is really unhealthy, it's toxic, and even abusive. And while we can totally understand why you miss somebody and love them and struggle with wanting them back, there are times where you have to really walk away for your own emotional and physical safety, depending upon the situation. And it's tough because, you love somebody, you're hoping they'll change or they'll fix things and you can repair it. But, it takes two people to make that work. And if they're not willing to do it, then you have to say enough is enough. I got to get out of this. Right? So today we've got an email coaching that I did, but in this situation, Victoria also had done a Skype coaching with this person, so she knows the situation as well.
Right, so I can chime in with any insight that we have made on the call or any other details that we've talked about. Of course, keeping this as ambiguous as possible because we want to respect her privacy.
Absolutely, and Victoria didn't even know that I was pulling this one out to do today. She just happened to look over it and said, wait a minute, I actually did a call with this person. This is a woman in her late 30s, okay? And we'll just leave her nationality kind of vague. We'll just say she's Asian, okay? So, this is an interesting situation, and if you find yourself in a similar situation, you really got to think about leaving, right? So she said, please forgive me if my English has any mistakes. I can't appreciate you enough about your educational videos. You let me know how important it is to work on myself through building my self-respect, love, and secure attachment. In 2016, I met my ex through a meetup group. We went out 3 or 4 times as friends. We started our serious relationship after about a month. He was a smart person at a technical handyman job, so he helped me with my small business. Okay? I appreciated his contributions, but he used it to manipulate and later guilt trap me. Guilt tripping. Any of that you want to expand upon yet?
Yes, but I want to hear a little bit more information before I get into it.
All right. Like I said, Victoria did a Skype call with her. In 2018, we realized that we had serious communication and connection problems as a couple. I was feeling hurt from his abusive words, criticism, public humiliation, and devaluation, and afraid of his anger towards me daily.
And in the call, we did get into some more specifics, and based off of specific things that have happened, I would agree with her calling this public humiliation, calling this devaluation. A lot of the things that she had told me he had said were very demeaning and were very just negative towards her abilities, things like that.
Were there any specific incidents that you could think of that made you think, oh boy, this is real?
A lot of name calling, and that's really when you start to see things get ugly, but it wasn't just the general name calling. It was, I know that this is a weak point for you, and I'm specifically mocking that, making fun of that, and using that to put you down, to bring you lower.
And in public? What was it like? Was it in what kind of a setting? Do you remember?
I don't remember specifically the setting, but it would be to where others could see.
Like friends and family, or just like strangers?
Just the general public.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a walking on eggshells type of situation, to where, he had a certain temperament and little things could set him off.
Wow, okay. In 2019, we went to ask for a couples counselor's help, but the counselor told me solely that I am beating a dead horse. From the beginning till the end, he didn't offer me any emotionally supportive words, nor a committed proposal. He only kept blaming me. This sounds really unhealthy. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it was really wearing down how she was feeling inside. She must have been sad and depressed all the time.
And a good clinician will be able to notice some of these toxic patterns, and sometimes they will pull one partner aside and have separate conversations in order to give their assessment and give their suggestions, especially when they see that there could be any type of abuse, mistreatment going on. It's part of their ethical duty to make sure that the clients are safe. A good therapist wouldn't recommend a harmful situation to stay together if it means it's going to cause more damage. So it seems like that clinician was thinking in those terms.
Yeah.
And I remember she had mentioned to me it had only been a couple times of going to this therapist, which sometimes happens. Sometimes you will see a toxic partner appease the concerned partner and say, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go to therapy with you. Sometimes it will be just a couple sessions, and then you'll see that motivation drop off. You don't see that consistency. The other thing that I do want to say too, sometimes you will see an abusive partner or a toxic partner agree to go to therapy and then use some of those things that were said in therapy against you later, or learn certain skills to be able to manipulate you better on in the future. So this is why it's very important to assess your safety, both emotional, physical, mental safety in a relationship at all times.
Absolutely. All right, let's go on. There's more. I was extremely shocked and depressed, and eventually gave up my pregnancy. Oh boy.
This was a very tough decision, and in this moment, we had also processed some of this and some of what has happened. And there is this feeling of, what is my future going to look like? There is a part of you that's recognizing, I don't like this treatment and I'm worried about my offspring. What would happen? Would I have to protect them? Would they be in danger?
Yep.
And so there's so many different thoughts that come up in someone's mind. And of course, this is a difficult decision for anybody. And so much more so when there's abuse involved.
Absolutely. I have suppressed my sadness and pain since then. That's tough. Mm-hmm. Deciding to give up a child, obviously it's very different for every person, but you could see she was in a toxic, abusive situation, and bringing a child into the world with that kind of person makes it so much harder.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like she did not have any of that emotional support from his end.
Yeah. 2020 through 2021, COVID hit my business and I was deeply depressed. In 2022, I planned to close my store and file for bankruptcy. I told him my concern. He became more aggressive and impatient with me.
This is where some of what she was saying earlier about him helping her and then later using it against her came into play. And sometimes relationships can take on this type of dynamic where there is an over-functioning partner and then an under-functioning partner. And sometimes the over-functioning partner will be in this position of power of, I'm helping you get through this. And that starts to get into their heads and gets to the point where they're starting to use that as control, whereas the under-functioning partner starts to lose self-confidence, starts to lose sight of their own abilities because of this type of dynamic, rather than a supportive partner saying, I'm helping you and you can do it on your own too.
All right. End of June, he got really upset at me for misplacing something of his, and he dumped me. In 2023, I worked really hard to close my business. We had an anxious, dismissive, avoidant trap from your teaching. I grew up in a dysfunctional household. My father was absent due to his mental issue, and my narcissist uncle took my family in. I lost my younger brother in a car accident when I was 25 years old. As a result, I developed a separation anxiety, low self-esteem, and people-pleaser character. On the other hand, my ex grew up in an abusive house filled with violence and drugs and addiction. Oh, this is brutal. His mother killed his toddler stepbrother when he was a baby. Okay. So now we're dealing with about as extreme stuff as you could get. His mother killed his toddler stepbrother. Oh, I mean, that's just horrific. Mm-hmm. And so you can imagine that's a big reason why he's got so many issues himself. His mother must have extremely serious mental health problems.
And you can see the level of trauma that's going through this entire family.
Yeah, exactly. Drugs, addiction. I mean, oh my gosh. So this guy doesn't know what a healthy relationship looks like at all. Mm-mm. His only safe place was his room with online games so he could get away from his abusive caregivers. His father had a bankruptcy and killed his dog for moving to a rental. Oh man, this is just unbelievable stuff.
We're seeing parents that are resorting to violence here.
Extreme violence.
Yeah.
This caused him another trauma, and he reflected it on my bankruptcy. I assumed he couldn't handle my uncertain life events and ran away. My ex came after our breakup and said I was miserable, but he wanted to help. Therefore, he offered me his friendship. I accepted, but I never cried, begged, or chased him back. He visited my place for unnecessary reasons multiple times. I acted polite and kept my distance from him. One night, he came and laid on my bed and talked about his new girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. This to me crossed a line. I mean, he had already crossed so many lines even before this point, but just seeing his demeanor, it seemed to me as it was almost him throwing it into her face of, okay, this is my new life, I've moved on. It is cruel. It is cruel.
All right. I politely asked him to leave and set my boundary. I explained that it's not healthy. Then he said his girlfriend was nice enough to let him come to my place. Do you remember what happened there? Did he say the girlfriend should go to her place?
He was being very open about his relationship with this new person and almost flaunting it to her.
That's awful.
And to me, I can understand this person has been in her life for quite some time. And in situations where there is abuse, sometimes there can be what's known as a trauma bond, where, you go through these ups and downs together and it makes you feel more close and connected than you would have otherwise.
Yep.
And sometimes it can almost draw you in. Even if you consciously know and cognitively know this is not a good situation, there's something about it that feels so connected because you've been through so much together, even if those things were manufactured. And so I can see her in this point accepting the friendship, being in this state of, I feel lost. And for more context, she also has traveled to a different country and she has an established life in this different country, but still there are language barriers and he is a lot more assimilated to that culture than she is. So right there we have a power imbalance. Mm-hmm. And, he has some clear advantages there, which he also used to demean her, instead of encouraging her.
Wow. There's a little bit more here. It sounds like a movie. because they even stalked me from his car. I mean, him and his new girlfriend are stalking her.
Yeah.
I mean, that is extreme. Not that there hasn't been a lot of extremes in this situation. I've been no contact with him since March. He refused my opinions and feelings, only being very resentful. Though he watches my social media and comments continually until now. Could I have your advice about my nonsense ex? What are my options to handle this unusual situation? Well, this is an extreme situation, and this guy, I think, is quite capable for some violence. We know we've seen extreme violence in his family, and I think for your own safety, you better cut him off. And in every way that you can. I would remove him from social media, make your settings private, block him, whatever you have to do, because, you know, this is not good. This guy is stalking her with his new girlfriend. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard that one before.
Yeah,
I mean, stalking, yes, but with my new girlfriend.
It is pretty wild.
That's pretty bizarre.
And in these types of situations, there is usually a level of dependence on the toxic partner. And this is partly the toxic partner's making. You know, sometimes you'll hear that a toxic or unhealthy partner will isolate you and keep you from your friends and family and other resources that really would empower you and make you independent enough to leave. And so a lot of what we worked on is thinking about other ways to get that support, to feel like, okay, I am part of a community. I'm going to be okay on my own. I don't need this person. And we also worked a lot on self-confidence, you know, being able to think about how much she has survived already. You know, her making that decision to come to a different country and start a new life is huge. And she did that all on her own. And sometimes, you know, we make a giant step and then we get there and we're feeling a little bit lost. And then, you know, we make some unhealthy connections, become more and more dependent on them. But we forget where we came from and our abilities and how strong we actually are. And so, you know, I do think in this situation, I agree with you 100%. This is a cutting this person out. This is a blocking this person. This is a, you know, I need to protect myself and think about myself first.
Yeah, you got to move on.
And for somebody who is not used to setting boundaries in a relationship, for somebody who has been controlled for a long period of time, it feels very strange to say no.
Yeah, but you got to do it. You got to do it in a situation like this. I know that you're probably trying to figure him out, and you're trying to make sense of this nonsense behavior. Don't try. Don't try, because I remember Margaret and I would have conversations about some things like this where you're trying to make sense out of it, and she'd be like, you can't make sense out of this kind of nonsense with stalking with a new girlfriend in the car and all these bizarre behaviors. You just can't make sense of it because it doesn't even make sense to them. And it's at this point when you're in a situation like this, it's about you cutting somebody off because they're toxic and abusive, and moving on with your life and healing from it and getting away from them before they continue any more bizarre behaviors. I mean, there's just so many examples of bizarre behaviors as we've gone through here. And I'm sure you know even more that weren't in this email coaching. But my point here is you gotta move forward. Stop trying to figure it out. It'll keep you stuck. Get healthy. Protect yourself. Keep yourself safe from this guy. You know, if for some reason he managed to get a hold of you, I would politely say, look, I wish you the best, you know, because you don't want to try and make things worse. You know, just say, look, I got to move forward. I wish you the best. I appreciate the time we had together, but, you know, I got to move on, and I hope you find happiness for yourself. You know, you can have a little compassion and you know, empathy for this guy because he's been through hell. Obviously, you know, he had a step toddler that was killed by his own mother. They killed his dog. All kinds of horrific abuse that probably went way beyond what she even knows. So I have a little bit of empathy for her, but only if he managed to somehow get around that block, which sometimes people do.
Right. And I will also say, empathy is a really great thing. However, sometimes we can have so much empathy that we forget to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it is important, sure, maybe understanding can give you some context, might give you a different perspective, but at the same time, I can see where there is danger in trying to understand too much.
Yeah.
Because then we start to feel pity, then we start to feel like, oh my gosh, I feel so sorry, this is all explained by some reasons, and maybe there's hope, and maybe this can get better. I am a hopeful person. I am a very hopeful person, and I will tell you that. However, we also need to be realistic about where our partner is at any current moment, and if that is okay, if it is safe, if it is tolerable.
Yeah, this is a dangerous situation.
I agree, and I don't think that in this case it is worth it to try and have any more empathy for him at this moment. He needs to show you consistently over a long period of time that there has been major changes before even the thought of reconsidering the
I don't think she should. But I'm trying to say, like, if he manages to get around the block somehow, then I would just try and be a little bit compassionate to him, because you don't want to set him off and make things worse.
Right.
But I don't think she should try and spend any more time trying to figure this out. He's got massive amounts of trauma. He's got to work through it. Seeing the kind of violence that he did, sometimes when people see that kind of violence, they reenact it in an effort to understand it. And so that's why it scares me for her. We know that he's stalking. We know that he's emotionally abusive. So that's why we're saying move on from this situation. You've got to move on. You've got to let it go and, process it, deal with it, handle it like an adult, and then just move forward to your life. And hopefully, things get better for him as well. But that is the least of your concerns.
Yeah. And I know that we're using a lot of this strong language and, having some very specific advice about leaving him in the past and moving forward. We know that doesn't make the grief any easier. So the feelings of sadness that come up, and being able to acknowledge them and don't ignore that they're there. You can feel sad for losing somebody that was a part of your life, and also know this is not somebody that I can choose right now for me. I have to choose myself over this person. Yeah,
absolutely. All right. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name on the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.